Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Disney Cruise Line executives make their case for that proposed development at Lighthouse Point.
A homegoing service is used to advocate for a stronger justice system.
The opposition leader is slamming the Attorney General's description of a controversial contractor as a whistleblower.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Top executives from Disney Cruise Line made their case today for the purchase of Lighthouse Point Eleuthera and the development of a cruise port. The project, which has been the subject of controversy in recent weeks, is pegged to cost nearly $500 million. Jasmine Brown has more.
The cruise line president confirming several facts today, including the fact that the project is slated to cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
This investment will be between $350 and $400 million.
Vale and other Disney Cruise Line senior members sat with our news team for a one-on-one interview at Bahamas Convention Center on Wednesday morning. That's where he revealed that Disney already has an agreement for the land with the current owner. Vale confirmed that they've been under contract for several months.
We have an agreement for purchase with the current owner, just under contract, and for, I think, a period of time we have the option for purchase of the property.
Vale says while the proposed project has gotten the green light from the Disney board, the company is currently going through the official process with the Bahamas Investment Authority. He says if approval is given, Disney is ready to begin work on the proposed port almost immediately. In recent weeks, environmentalists and non-governmental organizations have spoken out against the proposed development. The One Eleuthera Foundation and the Bahamas National Trust have been at the forefront of the resistance with a petition and have been lobbying the government for approval to turn the 700-acre property into a national park. Vale said they've spoken to some residents on the island and gotten positive feedback.
We haven't officially spoken to One Eleuthera. We've spoken to people who are part of One Eleuthera. We did some meetings in Eleuthera with different residents in Eleuthera. There were some people that were for the project, there were some people that weren't for the project to start. And we think we had a great conversation and just had a discussion of the facts. Most of the people we had the conversation with said, I didn't know that this was the proposal, this isn't what I'd heard. And so I think they appreciated having the discussion of what it was we were planning to do.
Disney Cruise Line has promised to preserve the salt ponds on the property and give the government 170 acres of the land for conservation. Government asked for them to make some changes to the plan, and they're addressing those concerns, including plans to give Bahamians access to the property without any restrictions. He says they are still working out the details on how that would work. The Disney president says at the end of the day, Disney views the Bahamas as one of its most vital partners, adding that the Bahamas is one of their most popular destinations.
Yeah, we've told people, judge us on how we've behaved, judge us on what we've done in Castaway, judge us. Castaway is only 15% developed. We have over 150 jobs for Bahamians in Castaway. We have been a great environmental steward of that property. So judge us by the experience and the history.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Well, while much of the focus has been placed on the proposed port in South Eleuthera, it turns out that Lighthouse Point was not Disney's first choice for a cruise port. Vice President of Public Affairs and Communications for Disney Cruise Line, Kim Prunty, revealing today that Disney also took a look at 2 other locations.
One of the places that we explored was Egg Island, which you may have heard about a few years ago. And we walked away from Egg Island because it wasn't compatible with our values as it relates to the environment. We're funding all kinds of coral research and activity, and we just didn't feel like it was compatible with that. So we chose not to move forward with Egg Island. We also have looked at places like Morgan's Bluff and Andros, and it would require significant dredging because of the access to deep water and the ocean currents there. So we decided not to move forward with that.
The Disney execs were also asked about the possibility of their project not being given the green light by the Bahamas Investment Authority. Vale says Disney has not considered a plan B.
We don't have a plan B that would be in the Bahamas. So that's, we don't have one that we've been able to find for that. So we would hope that wouldn't happen, but we've looked at different scenarios of where we put the ships. Cruises to nowhere aren't popular, so we have to find some place to send the ship.
Opposition leader Philip Davis is refuting Attorney General Carl Bethel's claims that government's recent payments to controversial contractor Jonathan Ashe were old bills. With more on this, here's Jared Higgs.
Speaking to reporters outside of Cabinet on Tuesday, the Attorney General described Ashe as a whistleblower. This coming just over a year after the Prime Minister told parliamentarians that Ashe was receiving astounding levels of payments. With the documents circulating on social media showing $150,000 worth of payments to Ashe, Bethel jumped to the controversial contractor's defense, calling him a whistleblower and stating that whistleblowers shouldn't be given an economic death sentence. Davis says he sees the matter much differently.
Contrary to the AG's declaration, right, Mr. Ashe is not a whistleblower. And so the question is, why is it then that the government continues to pay him?
During his first budget contribution as Prime Minister, Dr. Minnis described payments made to Ashe enterprises for Hurricane Matthew cleanup as shocking. Ashe is one of the prosecution's key witnesses in the Shane Gibson bribery case. And with that document showing continued payments to Ashe between April and August of this year, including the most recent payments reflecting VAT being charged at 12%, Davis questions whether he is still performing work for the government.
The spreadsheet that was circulated seemed to suggest that he did, in fact, continue to do work for the government, recalling that the Prime Minister himself said that that Mr. Ashe would receive no more monies from the government. We now see that that is not so. What hypocrisy!
When contacted by Our News Today, Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest insisted that the payments to Ashe were based on old contracts and that he has no new contracts to his knowledge. Works Minister Desmond Bannister also telling this news station that his ministry did not issue any contract to Ashe during his tenure as minister. Nevertheless, Davis says Minnis criticizing Ashe and Bethel defending him demonstrates a lack of unity within the government.
You see the Prime Minister saying one thing and well, that has been typical of this government. The fact of the matter is that they have they obviously are not coordinating their efforts to govern. And whenever you're in a campaign mode and you continue to be campaigning, campaigners have a tendency to be carrying different messages. And this is typical, and you'll continue to see ministers in the government speaking things that are not in sync with one another. And that is because, first of all, they have no plan or vision. And secondly, they still believe that campaigning equals or is synonymous to governing. It is not.
Reporting for Our News, I am Jared Higgs.
A somber farewell for the police officer brutally murdered in front of his daughter. Hundreds packed the Church of God auditorium today, where they sang songs and remembered the life of Inspector Carlos Blatche. Jillian Gray tells us more.
It was a jubilant celebration of life as friends, family members, and colleagues gathered to bid farewell to Inspector Carlos Blatche. The full military funeral was used as a platform to advocate for stiffer penalties for criminals. Bishop Simeon Hall challenged the government to memorialize Blatche and all other officers who've lost their lives by sending a stronger message to criminals. As he says, the senseless crime that led to Blatche's death is truly the worst of the worst.
To shoot and kill somebody in front of their child should be seen as the worst of the worst by our anachronistic Privy Council. In light of this tragedy, let us go beyond just a funeral for Officer Blatche. Let us memorialize him by sending a stronger message to criminals. Officer Blatche and all those who died while serving as officers must not die in vain. Let us fix the system that is soft on criminals. By our passivity, we grow criminals.
Hall added that those who illegally bring guns into the country, along with parents, lawyers, and government officials who benefit from crime, are all just as guilty as those who pull the trigger.
Parents who harbor and benefit from crime, you help to pull the trigger. Lawyers who benefit from crime, you help pull the trigger. Politicians who are soft on crime, you help pull the trigger to kill Officer Blatche.
Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest called Hall's words powerful, but added that if crime is to be reduced in the country, everyone must first look in the mirror and ask what role they can play in combating crime.
What a difference we would have in this country if many more of us would reach out to that young man or that young woman who may come from a troubled family or a troubled community, and to help them, to guide them, to show them that there is a better way.
Turnquest comforted Blatche's children with his own story of how he lost his father and told them to remember their father every day and the bravery he showed daily.
Losing your father at such an early age cannot be easy. And there are many experiences and lessons that he will not be able to teach you. But I encourage you to speak to him every day. Look in the mirror and remember him every day.
Family and friends of Blatche, as well as National Security Minister Marvin Dames and Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson, remembered and paid special tribute to Inspector Blatche.
Carlos, I'm still waiting on your call. Please call so you can let me know this is just a dream. Carlos, my brother, it's hard to say goodbye, so I'll just say so long. The pages of your life will never be closed. We will remember you through the many people that you have left behind.
Though emotional, his children too offered a tribute to their father as the students of H.O. Nash stood in silent support.
Can I lay by your side next to you?
Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
A 39-year-old Haitian boat captain will serve 5 years behind bars after he pleaded guilty to 4 drug-related charges. Terry Nassia, seen here in the yellow shirt and of La Torture, Haiti, was charged alongside 12 other Haitian nationals who all denied their role in the discovery of 23 pounds of cocaine on a boat in Inagua. According to prosecutor Clifford Daxon, police in Inagua went to the government dock in Matthewtown and boarded a vessel where they discovered Nassius and the 12 other defendants. An initial search of the vessel turned up empty. However, officers noticed a piece of wood that appeared to be recently applied to an area of the vessel. When the wood was removed, 9 tape packages of cocaine were discovered. With the aid of an interpreter, Nassius, who is the father of 9 children and works as a farmer in Haiti, admitted to police that he, along with the others, placed the drugs on the boat in Haiti. In addition to the drug charges, 5 of those Haitian nationals were charged with deceit of a public officer after police said they provided false names to them. Those 5 defendants pleaded guilty and were sentenced to 2 months at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Deportation was recommended by Magistrate Subasola Swain, and the drugs and vessel were ordered destroyed. Still to come on our news, the opposition leader weighs in on the controversy over Lighthouse Point. And a little later on, we dig into the dishes being offered at the corral. Stay tuned.